So, it's 2022, and maybe you're thinking, why didn't he just release this before the year ended? Like the very last part of the month? Well, that's kind of stupid, because it's like, yo, the year hasn't ended. Maybe I find something new. Also, I wanted to watch a lot more movies, and it took me forever. But you know what? The Academy does their thing in the next year, so why not do my thing this year, you know? I was gonna wait till the year had ended. Also, I found this year interesting when it came to, movies. They really crammed all the good movies into one year. Unlike, 2020, where it's just, they just put out all the movies that they didn't want everybody to see. This one, they're all like, let's just put everything in here. And we got a lot of good stuff, in my opinion. Furthermore, I want to thank you guys for watching my channel throughout the weeks and months and maybe year and a half, because you know what, it's hard doing YouTube, just committing to everything and putting your all in there, and sometimes you're not, but still I really appreciate you guys. I had a little bit of the dip in the year. If you know me personally, you know why, and I'm very glad you guys stuck around. And without further ado, let's just get into this. Now, not everything in this list has to be something that came out this year. And this particular list is about things that did not come out this year, but because I loved it so much, I can't not talk about it. I have to talk about it. It's so fun, and it's so cool to see movies that you've never experienced, that have always been around. So this is a list of things that's been around for a while, but nobody's seen yet. So I know this really isn't a movie, but also really isn't a show. It's a compilation of a bunch of short films, and they're all sci-fi, and they're all animated, and they're all sort of rated R, MA, but it's just really cool. The ones that land really well. And it's just really inspiring show for people who just want to make art that stands on its own. The gentleman I've been wanting to watch for a while is that really cool looking movie that has this very London, very gentlemanly style while being really crass. And it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and it was really good, so it makes the list definitely. As I said before, this is just a really cool movie that is grounded and is probably very easy to make in a certain idea. And it's original, and I love it, and guys should all watch it. Chronicle, amazing movie. Yeah, Michael Bay. And yes, he made a film that's about real life and about something that actually happened, and it's different, and it's very good. He does something that's it's about these bodybuilders who get into crime, but it's all under people's noses, and it's really critical about how we just see materialism, and it's very funny. When Harry Met Sally. This is a classic, and it is a rom-com, but it's done in a way that's very specific. It does things that you wouldn't expect. The two main characters are friends throughout the entire movie and only become in a relationship, like a romantic relationship, near the end. And it's very smart, and it has a very soft nature to it. So I suggest you guys watch this as well. Alas, we have a French film in this category, and I'll just say it, it's about cannibalism, and it's very weird and very uncomfortable to watch, but it's also one that's done very uniquely. It does have a lot to do with, it is very much a coming of age story as well, and I really like those, but it's very sad as well. You don't see those movies really go in a sad direction, and I mean, it's one of the most unique things I've ever seen in my life. This is a very weird movie because it's about a girl who takes revenge on her best friend's rape, but everybody's okay with it for some reason. Everybody thinks, it wasn't really a big deal, and it's very critical of how we see other people and their own actions. I know that, it's not right to rape people. It's not right to, but when we see other people mess up, we're all like, whatever. At least some people are. And if we're more critical about how we see people's stories and their perspective, and we look more critically of what rape actually means, this movie is very interesting and very opens up a lot of conversation. And that's what a movie should do. Look, it's a classic. It's become a classic now. And it was about time, we watched this particular Martin Scorsese movie that's like, has everything in it. And it feels like, that it's weird that this guy is still like around and still like alive and not still in prison. But it goes to show that if you're rich, you can get away with pretty much everything. And it's sad, and I hope that this doesn't happen. I know it's happening all over the world right now, but it's another one of those Scorsese movies where you have to look and say, how can you judge this person if you do the exact same thing? Another classic, well, it's an actual classic that came from the 50s, and it's my first Marilyn Monroe movie, and she's awesome in the movie. She is, when you actually get to see her in a movie, it makes sense why she'd become a star, and it's just a fun romp, and it's, it was a surprising mafia movie as well, and I don't have much to say. I mean, some like it hot. It's really of its time. Blue Valentine. Now we've come to the meat potatoes of this list. And, these two actors are amazing. I love them, and to see them together in a movie, amazing. But also, I think this movie is so cool in the way it presents romance. It has very much a youthful energy to it, and it's very down to earth, and it makes you, feel excited about this relationship. But it's also juxtaposed to this more adult version where, where love must die, and it's heartbreaking in a sense in both instances, but it's very interesting to watch and will captivate you for sure. This is a very interesting movie because it is a lot about sex and porn and how guys really gravitate or think about these things, and really it makes you think, well, okay, why is it wrong? What is, our relationship? What's a female version of what we have? And it's it goes around these really interesting ideas, and really at the end of the day, comes to a conclusion I actually agree with, that sex is made for the other person. You're supposed to be in this relationship and feel these feelings so that you please the other person. It's not just for yourself. And I think that is a very mature way to go about this particular topic, and I think pretty satisfying. This movie is a very meditative film about what it means to die and to be in existence, and it's very sad. It's probably the most depressing movie out of all of these, but it also has so much of a joy of being alive and to love and to cherish somebody's memory. It's also, again, it's depressing. It's about, when you die, will people remember you the same? People go through grief, but after that grief, what happens if you're there and you're looking at somebody grieve you? It's crazy. And for me personally, who's lost somebody very close to me this year, it was a movie that kind of made me sad. What if my dad saw us grieve? Would he feel loved? It's a very interesting movie, and again, it's very interesting to talk about as well. Beautiful Boy is, again, so heartbreaking. You follow this parent just loving this kid with all he has and does whatever he can, and then at some point he has to say no, and that is just, it's crazy. And you see this kid and his you know, dealing with drug addiction, and it's like he wants to get out of it, but at the same time he's pulling himself. There's this backlash, there's all this stuff that's like making him go crazy. And of course the actors do an amazing job. You know, Timothy Chalamet is like one of the best. And it really, I'm telling you, I ugly cried in this movie. This movie really hit me in a way, because you see this dad's love for his kid. And I mean, this movie got me like nothing else has before. Anomalisa is, if I tell you, you'll not understand how amazing and crazy this movie is. You know, Fragile effect is the thing where you see every person as the same person. And this definitely is about the Fragile effect, and it's done through animation. It's really weird, and it takes place in a hotel. And okay, all of this I'm saying, you would never imagine for it to be an animation, but they do it, and it's incredible. And it's one of those stories that kind of like bends your mind. I think if you're gonna make a movie that kind of like is supposed to make you think, and it's really twisty and turny, you have to leave it a little bit open-ended. You have to sort of like you have to get the movie to disagree with itself in parts for you to make that. And I think this is a perfect example of how to do that. And this is my first Charlie Kaufman film, and man, does he knock it out of the park. This is a movie that I've been wanting to watch for a while, and I paid money to watch it, and I was definitely pleased with the movie. It is incredible. Nomadland takes its time, and it's very slow and very meditative. Well, number one, I want to say that this movie came out in 2020. If it was 2021, it'd be on the list. It's one of those theater experiences that I've had where I just walk into the theater by myself, enjoy the movie by myself, and walk home and just think about what I just saw. It is one of the most just thoughtful movies. It really makes you think, just enjoy being alive. It makes you enjoy, you know, being on this planet and just soaking in, you know, other people and their stories and their experiences. And, you know, there is grief in this story, but it doesn't overshadow the story, you know. And there is a sense that, like, even through, you know, capitalism and them exploiting, I don't see any of that, but I just see, you know, people who just live and exist. I don't know, because I feel this is pretentious. I haven't seen this since it came out, but it has stuck with me, this slow meditative idea and its style, and how it's just so down to earth and very, you know, there's a joy to it even in the mundane. So there are some movies I did not watch this year, and if I did watch them, they would be on the list, like Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, Licorice Pizza, and even the new Ghostbusters movie. I mean, there's movies that I've wanted to see and I was able to see that I still didn't put on the list, like 007 or Spencer, or just a lot of stuff. Alright, it's time to make enemies. Spider-Man is at the bottom of my favorites list. Hey, at least makes the list, you know? But it does everything it's supposed to do, which is incredible. I think that is a big feat for a movie to do everything it needs to do. The reason it's at the bottom is just because, you know, is that it did so much, and it did something that we've wanted to do for a while. The reason it's not farther is just because, you know, it didn't do much afterward. I still really like this movie, so it's on here. King Richard is just a crowd pleaser, you know. Most stories about anybody from the black community, you know, rising to the top, always has to have a white guy who's like, I'll save you guys. But this here, King Richard really did the work for his daughters to become worldwide legends. And he even thought, you know, what sport it would be, what time it would be, and he just knew. And you gotta appreciate that. Will Smith in this movie, he's really good, and I believe he deserves an Oscar for this. He really committed to this character and made you fall in love with him with all his faults and mistakes. Venus and Serena Williams are legends from the moment you see them on screen, and nothing less. For people who don't know, Latino people dance a lot, but they don't really dance this much. Aside from that, I think this movie is a glorious feast for your eyes. If you've watched Crazy Rich Asians, you know that John Cho has a style of movie making that just feels like, he can make rom-coms so cinematic they can compete with the big boys. They can compete with Lord of the Rings or these Marvel movies where they're so glorious and epic, but they're just, regular people, dancing the streets. And I know this movie didn't make a lot of money, but it should have. I mean, goodness, this movie was gorgeous. And the way they use mirrors in their cinematography and windows to have three images all at once and it all be cohesive. Oh my goodness, this movie is beautiful. Being the Ricardos, I was excited when I heard that there was going to be an I Love Lucy movie. If you know the story of Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball and their kind of relationship, hearing about this movie is exciting. And of course Aaron Sorkin had to make it, that fast-paced dialogue and his real, he can slap somebody in the face with their words. And it's just the perfect movie you can have. And they do exactly as, I expected. But, when you expect Aaron Sorkin, you expect a lot. And he really brings it in this movie. And it's, it's exciting, especially the premise where you think, oh yeah, she's a communist in the 50s. What's gonna happen? Is she gonna be okay? And she is, but you only know through history. You don't know through this movie what's gonna happen. You feel that tension in the movie. Look, this is Wes Anderson just being who he is. He has a large stacked cast who doesn't really need to be there, but makes the movie all the more fun. And this movie's a blast. It's fun to watch, and it has the energy. And I don't have much to say about it. Wes Anderson just goes full out, and if you're a fan of that, like I am, good on him. He makes it in the list, and he deserves it, Another glorious film by the legendary Scott Ridley, and he makes another film about honor and about knights, and it's incredible. Every emotion that's supposed to hits hard, and you feel the fear for Jodie Comer's character. Again, Jodie Comer is incredible in this movie, and this was just such a good year for her, and she just brings it. You feel that fear that's in her. And then they do this thing with perspective where you see other people's, how they see a situation and their limited perspective on it, what they gain from others. It's an incredible movie. It is so well written. And, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon did it again with their writing. Oh my goodness. Must see. Dune is, it's incredible, You see this movie that is made like none other movie and really has the potential to, go far. And, I took a lot of people to this movie, and I was not expecting them to be appreciative of a movie that takes its time and to tell this story that is very meditative and thoughtful and also very complicated to understand the world, and it's all just comes together. And it has that you feel it in your chest when you're watching the movie. It's very loud and very big and very grand, and you kind of feel scared. It's almost like horror just to see how big it is. The reason it's not number one or very much higher on the list is just because I personally haven't had the experience of it. When I experienced the movie, there was a lot of other things that were going on in a very personal, very grounded sense. I was watching this with a bunch of people. My mom was there. She was crying about other things that were happening. Of course, we're mourning someone, and a friend of mine left the theater. I had no idea why, and there was just a ton of things that were going on, and I hadn't gone back to the movie at all. And I wish I could say more, but this movie still, it's high on the list just because of how good it is. Why? Eternals up here? But this is a bad... No, it's not. It is a good movie. And again, it's one of those movies that just feels big. You feel it in your chest. And I guess it hits for me more just because it feels like our world, and it's a very different Marvel movie. And, I rewatched it recently, and it's as good as I remember it, It is very much a Justice League movie done by Marvel, but also not quite done by Marvel. And it is very sweet. I love this movie more than other people. I'm not afraid to say it. This movie just came and went, and everybody was like, oh, well, it wasn't that. No, it was awesome. Malcolm Marie really is a movie that's just trapped in one place. It's one of the only quarantine movies that feels like it's, quarantine itself. And it is just fun. The writing just you feel these two yelling and screaming at each other, and that they still love each other. There's still that affection for one another, but they are crazy in this movie. And it really goes down deep in how, us as people, we have relationships with other people, not just romantic, but just any kind of relationship. We just we hold all these grudges, and we go through, these little things. I'm not really mad for this, I'm mad for this, and really we're mad about something else. And I mean, if you understand people, and you've had these fights and arguments for a while, watching this movie is I get it, I understand. And it's really good. And it's really well written. Again, Scott really did 2 movies this year, and they are both bangers. And I still, it hurts me that not only, the other one didn't make money. This one, everybody hated, and I'm just what's wrong with you? Do you have no heart? The cast here is amazing. Lady Gaga, impressive, and she's just captures every scene with just her. She's amazing. And then, Adam Driver, the MPV of the year, he's just so good. The whole cast, even Jeremy Irons, he's not here for very long, but he has that slow, majestic feel to him, and he's one of my favorite things of this movie. And it's so fun. And Jared Leto is done wrong. Everybody says that he's awful in this movie. They're all lying. He is so fun. He is hilarious. He is chic. He's awesome. He's so chic in this movie. Something about watching this movie in theaters is magical. And hearing that it's it's original and it made a lot of money. That's just it's exciting. It's an original movie that is really, it's made for all audiences. It's very much like an 80s Spielberg movie. It's about a guy who's in a video game world, and it has a really cool world to it. It is very well built. Another Jodie Comer film where she does an excellent job, but you can't deny, Ryan Reynolds made this movie what it is. It has this energy and this really fun and referential, wing to it, but it's not totally just that. It can go in other places, and it's just one that you'll remember this year by saying, oh yeah, Free Guy, original movie. It's one of those movies, and I feel excited that I can say, we had something like this. Bo Burnham's Inside feels like it's not even a movie, but that's kind of why I want to put it in this list and revere it as a movie, because it's just so, like how we relate to electronics and our phones and the internet is so vital to how we live. And for, somebody of his generation who's lived both lives of not having and having, he is able to look at this and say, this is how we are. And he does it in a funny way, he does it in a very depressing way, and it is the quarantine movie, is the 2020 movie. And it's also about art and how we're, movies aren't finished, they're abandoned. And, it's him learning to let go of his project. Oh, it's an incredible watch. And it's funny, it's a musical all at the same time. And I wanted to put this at number one, to be honest, to say, this is what this movie was made for. This was 2021's movie, but there's others. And it would do them less justice if I did that. This movie needed justice, and it got its justice. Zack Snyder had his justice. Oh my goodness, this is the Snyder Cut. We have seen the Snyder Cut. I mean, this is incredible. Like, okay, it's a movie that's 4 hours long, put in a short aspect ratio, and it's black and white. And people ate it up. That's crazy. And of course, it's because this is an IP. It's because people have talked about it for ages. And as a movie itself, it emotionally works. Not only does it fix everything in Justice League, the theatrical cut, but it really feels like something that will live by itself. It's not just a sequel to the past two, DC movies. It's not just something that will set up other movies. It could just stand on its own and be its own movie. And I feel like I've always wanted to make my own Justice League movie, and I feel like this one and Eternals really made me think I gotta work harder, and it's just it's a gorgeous looking movie, and it has good characters in it. James Gunn could literally do whatever he wanted to in this movie, and it shows this movie. This movie is a war movie, but it's also a superhero movie, and it's also colorful and funny, like superhero movies and war movies could never be. And it's so weird, and it has a talking shark, and he eats people, and he's cute, and it has John Cena being like an extremely conservative, evil, bad guy hero type, and it has a polka dot man. And look, I'm not saying the artistic intent of this movie, but it really is just silly and like bloody and fun, and it really feels unique. And I feel like uniqueness is something that I've really gravitate towards, for it to feel like something different. James Gunn, I salute you. Alas, we have made it to the last movie of this list, the top movie, and it is this movie. Edgar Wright has always been one of my favorite directors of all time, and for him to make something that's different for what he usually does, it really just testifies that he really does like film, and he does want to do things that are not only outside of his comfort zone, but do things that he wanted to do. And Last Night in Soho just feels like it's made to be a movie. It's made for you to come in, experience it, and then get out and think about it. And I love what they do with the actresses. They have this connection with them where they put them in the same place even though they are from different times and don't really know each other. And the movie is just about, being inspired. And if you're an artist and you like creating things, this is a movie that's be like, hey, this is something you might want to look at, something that's just like you. And at the same time, it's meant to acknowledge that though we may have, nostalgia about things, there is a dark side to everything. And I mean, it's a movie that I'm just gonna want to watch, even if I don't have it yet. I'm gonna buy it, and it's it's an exciting movie. Even if you're not a film fan, you're gonna enjoy this a lot. So, those are all my lists. And I gotta say, I'm excited for 2022, what we have. Not because, there's a lot of movies I'm just dying to see, because I'm not. There's really only two, and that's Batman and Babylon. But I'm excited to see where the year takes us. But I've got more coming in the channel. Not just my opinion, but also just analyzation, a lot of vlogs. I'm excited, guys. I'm very looking forward for you guys seeing.